Welcome to another episode of the STR Sisterhood. I'm your host, Stacey St. John, and I am so glad to be spending a few minutes with you today. Now, in this episode, we are sitting down with Trudy Cox and chatting through how they have navigated local regulations in their city and have built from the ground up 5 vacation rentals and are continuing to grow their portfolio. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Trudy. So today we are here with Trudy Cox. And first, I just want to say, Trudy, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited too. I would love for you to start out by just sharing with our listeners a little bit about who you are and where you live in the world.
Okay, well, my name is Trudy Cox. I live in Arlington, Texas, and my husband and I are the proud parents of 4 daughters, and we have 5 amazing grandchildren under the age of 2.
Wow.
Our girls all drink the same water. And we build ground up vacation rentals in the Arlington Entertainment District. If you don't know, Arlington is home to the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Rangers. We also have Choctaw Stadium, which is the former Texas Rangers Stadium before they built the new one last year. And so we also house or host professional rugby. XFL football is played there. And Arlington is now soon to be the home in March of the new National Medal of Honor Museum. And so a lot going on in Arlington.
A lot going on in Arlington. And I know you said that you do ground up construction, which I want to ask you about. But I first want to just dive into what got you started in the short-term rental space to begin with.
Accident. So my husband used to be a photographer. He owned a photography studio in Arlington for 30 plus years. And his studio was on road to Six Flags. Self-explanatory. We have Six Flags in Arlington as well, which that is the Arlington Entertainment District. And there was the side that his studio was on is all commercial. Across the street is all residential. And these homes were built in the 50s and 60s. They're old, but in between some of these lots, these houses, there were 7 empty lots. And so he just started buying them, not knowing what the heck he was going to do with them. Airbnb, short-term rentals, Airbnb, none of that was even on our radar. And he thought maybe studio expansion, something like that. But, and then the iPhone came out, right? And that started changing the dynamic of the photography industry as a whole. And so he started planning for our exit plan. What are we going to do after photography can no longer support our family? And one of our friends has 2 condos in Destin. And she's like, dude, you should really consider short-term rentals. I have a friend that has one in Arlington and she does very well. You should look into that. And there you go. The rest is history.
The rest is history. Yes. And so from the get-go, you have done ground-up construction for your short-term rentals. Talk to us a little bit about your biggest challenges you have faced doing ground-up construction and how you've overcome those challenges.
So from the get-go, once we decided to move forward with the short-term rental business, Austin, Texas, put a ban on short-term rentals citywide. Grapevine, which is also in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, put a ban on short-term rentals, as did Fort Worth. And so Arlington started grumbling about that. And so Ken, my husband, he's like, well, before we even break ground, we're going to make sure we're not going to invest all this money and then not be able to do this. So the biggest battle from the get-go was regulation and how to move forward from there. So that was the biggest hurdle to cross. But once we were able to cross that hurdle, it was just smooth sailing.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How did you tackle the challenge of the regulations? You said that Arlington was starting to, try to pass laws that could potentially ban short-term rentals. What did you do to overcome that?
So my husband is a brilliant man. He researched. Well, first of all, he went and he met with every single council person and our mayor one-on-one numerous times to talk about their concerns and what the issues were. And then from there, he went and researched other cities like Nashville and New York and all of the major tourist areas, and to find out what their regulations were and how we could apply them into Arlington. And from there, we wrote a white paper, 30-page white paper, on how short-term rentals would actually benefit the city of Arlington, because it's going to bring in tax dollars, right? It's going to help with tourism, which is what Arlington wants. It's a tourist town. People come in for games. We are event-driven. They're coming for concerts, games, Six Flags. So we get a lot of tourist money. And so allowing the short-term rentals, you're only going to benefit because there's more tax payments, tax money coming into the city. And not only that, since our lots are on this major feeder street, what we were planning to do would change the whole face of that street. And it's unrecognizable now from where it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so he presented that, and the city brought in outside consultants, and they had a lot of town hall meetings. And in the end, this was we started this process in 2015 probably. And by 2017, so we were on hold for many years. And by 2017, I believe it was, they came back with an ordinance that said, you can only do short-term rentals within a 2-mile radius of AT&T Stadium. And it's 2 people per bedroom plus 2 with a max 12. And so they just handed us a silver platter. Mm-hmm. Because there no other house that was already in existence in the entertainment district would meet the qualification to house 12 people. So that's what we built.
There you go. So, Trudy, I love that your husband actually took the time to meet with the council members one-on-one. I think, obviously, that's above and beyond what I think a lot of people do. A lot of people think, gosh, I'm just going to show up at the city council meetings. Did your husband have a relationship with any of the city council members prior to that? How did he get in touch with them, and how did he say, hey, let's meet?
So no, he didn't actually know any of them. He literally just called the city, and actually it was during an election time, so there's a lot of campaigning going on for the mayoral election. Well, he volunteered for that campaign and helped the mayor get elected. So he did a lot of schmoozing and lobbying. But literally, he went door to door. He just made appointments and went and talked to each one of them. And he went out of his way. And he showed up to every town hall meeting. He made his presence known. Everywhere we went, if he saw somebody, he let them know he was there. So now everybody knows who King Cox is. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Or a bad thing. No, that's funny. That's funny. And so, from your estimation, about how many hours did he spend during this 2-year period of either meeting with people, going to the city council meetings, doing the white paper? I want our listeners to have an understanding of the level of effort and energy it took to really make an impact in, how the regulations turned out in your city.
I think it became a second full-time job for him, honestly. Mm-hmm. He ran his photography studio, and he had a great set of employees that did it. So he was able to step back from that and work this. Numerous hours. It wasn't an easy process whatsoever. Hours, mm-hmm. hundreds of hours.
Yeah. And so for anyone listening, I just think it's an important thing to note that, Trudy's husband may have had the bandwidth and resources to be able to do that. And another way to think about this is, if one person doesn't have the bandwidth or resources to invest that much time, it could be worthwhile to get a group of people together who are actively going to the city council meetings, actively meeting with the council members one-on-one, maybe collaborating on a white paper. I love the idea of that white paper, Trudy, by the way. Talk to me a little bit about how you did the research for it and how that came to life.
He went into, I don't know how he came up with the idea of doing the paper. I mean, he's just brilliant, like I said. But he literally went to every single one. I don't remember how many cities we put into that white paper. There was probably 15 to 20 of them that we went into it. But he went to all of the city websites and found their regulations and their rules governing short-term rentals, and somehow found how much income they brought into the cities and how they benefited those cities, and outlined basically what their regulations were, how they helped, and what didn't help. And he gave them a guidebook. He literally gave the city a guidebook, and they in turn have shared that white paper. I mean, it's now out of date. I'm sure it's way out of date because, like I said, 2015, 2016 time frame. But they shared that with other cities. That's how good it was. Very proud of him.
Awesome. That's awesome. Go, Ken.
No, but it was a lot of research. So he literally went into city. He had to go digging. Yeah, he had to go investigate and find out. It wasn't easy, but he
For sure.
He went. Yeah.
And I also think it's important to know that when you're passionate about something, when you're dedicated to a specific outcome, we just do what it takes, right?
Yeah.
It's not always easy. We do hard things,
Yes. Yeah. And he's one of those, he obsesses, right? He will obsess over something. Once he puts his mind to doing something, that's all he can focus on. And so that's what he did until he got, and that was our exit plan from the studio, right? How are we going to support ourselves knowing that the photography industry is changing? Mm-hmm. And then, about the time we started building our first 3 homes, COVID hit. Mm-hmm. Well, that shut the studio down. We had to have that exit plan at that point.
Yeah.
And so that was just his obsession. Yeah.
I'm curious, now that you're several years into this, does he still keep a relationship with the city council members? Talk to me about what that looks like today.
Oh, yeah, he still has. Well, they have nominated him. He is now the chairperson for the city. What is it called? I don't know. He's the chairman of something with the city right now. Because he knows his stuff, and he's done a lot. We've invested millions into the city with these homes. And so, he still meets regularly with council members. We're trying to get We're trying to get an amendment to the ordinance now. We want to increase the occupancy to 16. The square footage, based on square footage of the homes, because there's, it would just change a lot of stuff. Not for us, but for a few other investors who have come in after us and done the same thing. He still meets regularly. He still works campaigns. He still has his hand in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. And do you collaborate with the other short-term rental owners in the area at all?
So I manage a property for another family. We don't really manage outside of our properties, but this couple, we like them and they wanted them. But we do a lot of consultations and consulting for other investors in the area. And there a lot of them, they're new and they want to know. And so he does a lot of consulting for free just because it's his passion.
That's wonderful. I want to go back and ask a little bit more about your portfolio. So you started off with one new build, or did you build multiple homes at the same time?
We built 3 at the first. 3 at one time. They're all side by side. So 3 side by side by side. And so we built them ourselves. My husband hired a consultant. He was the project manager on our house in our neighborhood that we had built a few years ago. and they became friends. And so Kim hired him to bring us the subcontractors and to teach Ken how to build homes, because my husband's all about saving money and not wasting money. If he can build it himself, he's going to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so he paid Mike to come and consult and help us build these first 3 homes. And they're all the same floor plan, but you would never know. They're all the same floor plan, but they look different from the outside, and they're all decorated differently on the inside.
Mm-hmm. So, and did you work with an architect and a designer, or did? Okay.
Yeah, Ken's one of Ken's best friends is an architect, and he designed this. We took our personal home, because we like our open concept a lot, and we just these first 3 homes are 5-bedroom, 4-bath, and so we added a second level to it, and we added another bedroom and another bath to it, and
there you go.
Turned out great, yeah.
And talk to me about that construction process. What did that look like as far as timeline goes? And did you ever find difficulty staying on budget? I know you said your husband likes to save money. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So those first 3 we broke ground in 2019. And I can't even remember when we broke ground. I don't think it took them that long to get built. We finished them in July 2020. We finished them during COVID. And it was smooth. I mean, he made a lot of mistakes. He learned he started one, and then what he screwed up on that first house, he corrected in the second and the third one. So it was a big learning, stressful. It's stressful, so stressful. The big learning process for him. And I don't know that we had a budget because we didn't know. We just knew we could build it a lot cheaper ourselves the way we were doing it. And and I think those homes, it might have cost, I think they were $400,000 a piece. Mm-hmm. You can buy that. You can buy them for that, right?
Right.
So, right. And I think that also includes the furnishings.
Wow.
So we did pretty good with our budgeting.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't really have a budget.
And talk to me about your design process while the building was occurring. So I'm imagining you are, either putting together how you want to furnish these properties, while that construction is taking place. How did you navigate that?
We by house, I guess. I knew that I wanted one to be kind of mid-century modernish, and I knew I wanted one to be traditional, and then I wanted another one that was, we call it our boho cowboy house. That one has changed. We've already redone that one on the inside to make it, because you can't just, you have to keep changing, right, to get people to want to come stay. And so I just knew. So we designed color, so they're all the same floor plan, right? So all of the interiors have the same basic wall color, all of the same flooring, all of the same drapery, curtains, all of the same counters. We just painted kitchen cabinets a different color, 2 of them. And then accent walls were different. And obviously furniture and colors were different. So it was just rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. And I knew the layout that would work for each of them. So that made it easy to design. Again, it's just getting the right type of furniture to fit the theme.
Sure.
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about your operations. What do you find drives the biggest amount of traffic to your properties? Is it the OTAs? Are you running primarily direct? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So it depends on the property, right? So Airbnb. So I think we're now probably equally split Airbnb and Vrbo. We built a website a year ago through Boostly, and we're going to get a lot of direct bookings now, and we get a lot of repeat guests now. We've been in business long enough that we get a lot of repeat, and they are starting to book direct. last month we had 9 direct bookings, which was huge for us. And so it started, like one of our houses is strictly Verbo. Airbnb can't touch it because it's always booked on Verbo. But the other houses, they're all Airbnb. It's just weird. That's how the algorithm picks it up, right?
Wow. And they're right next door to each other.
Yes. Yeah.
And did you ever consider creating multiple listings, like with all 3 houses together for larger groups, or have you always had them individually listed?
So we're going to do that with the 3 that are side by side, and they connect with the back gate. So we have offered it. We have allowed groups to stay in each, but we are going to now market them as, you can sleep 24, you can sleep 36. Parking is an issue because the city doesn't allow street parking. And so they can only have 6 cars in those driveways in our garages. And so that's the biggest issue with being able to sleep 12. If people are coming in for business and they're driving in separately, we can't house them cars. And so we made that, that's known up front.
Right.
But Ken is setting up a parent-child listing. That's one of his goals this year, to do that.
For sure. And I'm curious a little bit about your neighbors. So I think I've seen it so many times where as hosts, we have the best of intentions. We do everything by the books. We are teaching our guests, to respect neighbors. And unfortunately, there are situations where neighbors just don't like the fact that there are short-term rentals. Talk to me a little bit about your experience working with your neighbors. What has that looked like for you? And have you had any hiccups to deal with?
No, we've been lucky. So that there's literally only 2 neighbors that live there permanent, that are their homes. And like I said, there's 2 permanent neighbors there on that side of the street. And Ken has known them for 30 plus years because of the studio, and they're fine with it. And they love that it's changed the face of the neighborhood, and it's only increased the value of their homes, right?
Sure.
So their little 1 and 2 bedroom homes are now worth quite twice what they were a few years ago. And, there's an older gentleman at the far end of the street, and he's like our little policeman. He watches our houses, and it's so sweet. Anything suspicious, he's all over it. But so neighbors haven't been an issue. And Ken, before he did this, Ken actually went and talked to them, to both of those people, and they were fine with it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your day-to-day operations. So how many houses are you managing these days?
We own 5. We just finished our 5th one, and then I manage a townhouse down the street. So 6. And it's minimal work, right? Once you get your systems and processes in place. So I do, after every guest checks out, I go and inspect the house after they check out. And then I inspect after my cleaners before my guests check in. And then just constant maintenance for Ken on his. I think he does too much. That's just me. But we've got to give him something to do. Otherwise, everything's automated. We don't use virtual assistants because I don't think we're big enough. My oldest daughter and her husband are going to start managing for us. And actually, they're going to buy one of our first rentals to give us liquidity to build our 6th house. And it's automated and it's easy. We probably, because we live so close to our houses, we're 3 miles from them, we are able to go and do the inspections ourselves. And I don't see a need to, to farm that out to anybody else where we can do it.
Sure. And
it falls on me. It falls on me if something is wrong.
That's great. I want to ask you about your inspection process. So you mentioned that you go and inspect the houses after the guests check out, and then you inspect again after the cleaners. Talk to us about first the inspection that occurs after a guest checks out. What exactly are you looking for, and how long does it usually take you to do that?
Oh, it takes me less than a minute. I can walk in and tell immediately the guests are clean and have less, followed our checkout instructions, or if they have destroyed something. We've really only had 2 bad experiences, but I'm mostly just looking for damage, if anything is damaged that we didn't know about, and how they left the house, so I can rate them on cleanliness. And we've only rated 2 people below 5, and we've been really lucky.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then your inspection after a cleaner is finished with the cleaning. Talk to us about that inspection. What is your process for that?
I go in and I open up every single drawer and every closet and make sure that there's no hair, nothing was left behind. Our cleaners should be doing this, right? But even the best of cleaners get in a rut and a routine and forget. And so I check everything and make sure that our back's stocked, the toilet paper is properly stocked, our towels are stocked correctly, and then it's just guest ready.
And so do you have an inspection checklist that you work through, or is it just by memory? What is that?
No, we have a checklist. It's laminated and it's in our little cleaning caddy that's in our owner's closet. And our cleaners are supposed to use it. Do they always use it? Probably not. But for the most part, they do a really good job, and it's rare. And we have 4 cleaners that we rotate in and out. And so we try not to allow multiple cleans on one day, because that second house, if they clean 2 houses, the second house, there's going to be issues.
And so with I want to finish up really quickly with the inspection checklist, and then I want to go back to your cleaners. When you go and inspect, if you find something that needs to be fixed, are you calling the cleaner back? Are you doing the fixing yourself? What does that look like for you?
I usually just do it, because by the time I get a cleaner back over there, and if it is something, it's minimal, and it'll take me 5 minutes at the most to do it, or 30 seconds to wipe out a drawer that they didn't do. And we also, about every quarter, we pay for them to do a deeper clean, make sure that there's no crumbs in our kitchen drawers, all this, literally go in and just wipe everything down. We're pretty picky on that. We charge a premium for the properties, so we want our guests to get the premium clean when they come in.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned you have cleaners that you rotate in and out. Talk to us a little bit about that process. Are you doing the scheduling and just saying, hey, I need you to come clean on Tuesday of next week? What is that, a manual process? What does that look like for you?
So we have it's manual, but it's not. And yes, so when we get clean, the daughter, that's my oldest daughter, she is one of our cleaners. My oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, they both clean because they like the extra money, and it gives them something to do away from their toddlers. Let
the truth come out. No,
right. Anyway, so my oldest daughter, she's our cleaning manager per se. So she will go in and she will select her cleans first, and then we will divide the rest of them out. And we, and it's, our process works good for us. And
yeah. And do you pay your cleaners by the hour, or do you pay them per project?
Per project, per house. So each house has a different set fee. Because some days, we do that because some days it might take them on a clean. When they've only used 1 bed or 2 beds, it might take them 2 hours to clean, as opposed to when they've used all 8 beds in our biggest house. We're going to be there 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
So it kind of balances out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we pay a good fee for it.
Yeah. How did you find, so you mentioned the 2 cleaners are your kiddos. How did you find the others?
So one of our cleaners, she was cleaning for a short-term rental across the street from one of ours, and she came and introduced herself to Ken one day. And we didn't need her at that point. We originally were using a cleaning service, but we were paying way too much. We were just paying way too much for the service. It had its benefits, but in the long run, the bottom line, it didn't make sense. So we moved it in-house. And so we found her that way. And then the other one, we had another set of cleaners, and she was more helping them, and it didn't work out with the other cleaners, but she wanted to stay on with us, and she's probably our best cleaner.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have found in my own business that finding good cleaners is one of the most difficult aspects of our business.
Truly.
And secondarily, when we find good cleaners, we want to keep those good cleaners. So making sure that we have, the right protocols to make them feel valued and make sure that we are rewarding them for their great efforts. And on top of that, helping utilize their connections as a recruiting tool, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So,
a
lot of people who are great at what they do hang out around other people who are great at what they do. So I've found that to be really helpful to recruit cleaners for my team.
Yeah, we actually were in the market for another one because we have 5 houses. We can't clean 5 houses in one day.
Yeah.
Because we only have 4 cleaners.
Yeah.
So that other 5th cleaner is me, and I prefer not to.
Yes. I will guarantee that if I were the one cleaning my units, my guests would be calling and complaining when they checked in. I'm not the best at making a tidy bed. I'll tell you that.
That is a skill. Let me tell you, that's a skill.
Oh my gosh. It sure is. It sure is. Absolutely.
Yes.
So if you were talking with someone who is maybe newer to the short-term rental space, what advice would you give to them?
Make sure that they're investing in an area where they're going to get a good return on their investment. Because I would say now, Arlington for our area, it's a saturated market. If you're in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath space, I wouldn't invest in Arlington or in that space. Go bigger or don't do it. So it's got to make sense, right? And know that it's a long game. It's a long game. You're not going to get rich quick, and it's going to take more than one property to make a living. So you can't make your income your property might produce $100,000, and that's not what you're bringing home.
Right.
So it's a long game.
Absolutely. I do feel like a lot of people have gotten into the short-term rental space because they've heard about the tremendous revenue that you can generate. And we can generate from a really great amount of revenue. And when we buy right, this is something I always am talking with my students about, when we have to buy the property right. So we can be in a great market. If you buy a bad deal in a great market, chances are you're going to be SOL, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you also, on the flip side, can buy a great deal in an okay market and do very, very well. So I'm curious, have you ever thought about going outside the Arlington area?
No.
Or are you sticking close to home?
We're staying close to home. We have 2 more lots we're going to build. Ken is of the opinion that when I build somewhere else, if I'm going to go on vacation, I want to be on vacation instead of being at my rental house and working on my rental house, and let somebody else carry that burden when we're on vacation. We'll never invest outside of Arlington. And it's easy for us here to do it.
Yeah.
And it's been good. It's been good.
Trudy, one of the things that you said at the beginning of our call was that you were looking for a way to exit the photography business. And from the get-go, you called this your short-term rental business. And I think that it is so healthy to look at it as a business and treat it as a business. Have you ever come into stepping stones or hurdles when it's feeling as though, wow, we're growing faster. We're building new houses all the time. This is a lot. Have you ever second guessed yourself, or have you always kept the path moving forward and thinking, this is awesome, I love it?
Every time we built, so we just completed our 5th house And probably the best. We get better each time, right?
Yeah.
Built the first 3. The 4th one was great. It's our biggest money generator. It alone did what the other 3 did combined. So
Wow.
we built. And so this 5th one was basically that floor plan, but a little bit bigger and a little bit more bells and whistles. So every time we go into the building process with the 4th one and this one, it's like, are we making a mistake? Is this going to generate? Are people going to book? It's a big stressor. Are we wasting our money doing this again? Are we putting too much money into all the amenities that we're adding? And then just holding your breath once you go live on the platforms for that first booking they come in, we're always second guessing. And so we'll be second guessing this 5th build for a few months.
That's so funny. What are the amenities that you feel like make the biggest difference in your properties?
A swimming pool. We are in Texas, and you got to have a heated pool. You got to have it accessible year round. So we have the last 2 houses. This one and our 4th house we put in-ground swimming pools in. Our 3 houses have hot tubs. Those do okay, but the swimming pool and also just the extra bathrooms. So we get a lot of business travel too. And so we get a lot of midweek stays that people are booking our larger houses because of the bedroom bathroom ratio. So you got to have the bathrooms and the swimming pool.
That's wonderful. And do you build the swimming pool at the same time as the house, or do you do that after the house is? Oh, wow. Okay.
No, you dig the hole and then you pour the foundation and then it sits. And then totally get to a certain point in the building phase and then you come back and do the pool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got this new construction thing down to a science, which is not for the faint of heart. I have built several houses through a builder. I can only imagine the stress level when it comes to doing it yourself.
It's exhausting. It's for sure.
I want to ask you one other question about the building process, because again, I hear people say all the time how difficult it is to find contractors and find good contractors. Now, I know you said your husband had a relationship with someone who had subcontractors. Have you ever run into, a bad seed where, maybe a contractor isn't showing up or isn't doing the amount of work expected? And what did you do to navigate that?
I think that's happened with every one of our building processes. We have the good ones he's used with all 4 houses, right? Or 5 houses now. But we've had issues, and we've eaten money because we had to pay somebody to come back in and correct a job that wasn't done correctly, or because of a no-show. That's an issue in the building process.
So do you have any advice for people if they are experiencing that type of thing where contractors aren't showing up or they're doing poor work?
I think you got to just don't make sure you're getting somebody that's referred. So one thing that Ken did was our neighborhood that we personally live in, it's a brand new neighborhood. So during all of our building processes, there's still a lot of construction going on. So he would drive by and get when there's a house under construction during the certain processes, he would go get names. Because if our big builders are using these people or these companies, they must be okay. And so that's how we got a lot of our contractors. The ones that we have had issues with didn't come from him doing that. I don't know how he found them. But I don't know that there's a way to remedy that. You're always going to have bad seeds in everything you do. And some people, like if you're a one-off, you're building one house as opposed to mass construction, like in our neighborhood, some of them wouldn't even give us the time of day. And so it's persistence, and then being there on site. He was on site every day, making sure things were getting done right. And
there you go. A second set of eyes always helps. For sure. Trudy, I want to move to the lightning round. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to ask you to answer with the very first thing that comes to mind. First question is, where is your favorite place to vacation?
Anywhere where there's mountains. Any
You're a
mountain.
mountain girl.
Mhm. Yep.
And do you usually go to Smoky Mountain type places, Rocky Mountains? What part of the country do you?
I am more of take me to Montana, take me to Glacier
Mm.
National Park, take me to Yellowstone, someplace like that.
Wonderful. And what's one place you've never been that you want to visit?
I want to go to the redwood forest. So if it's still standing, I don't know if it's
If
still
it-
there after.
Isn't that Northern California? I think.
Is it northern? Is it
Yeah.
okay? Okay.
I mean,
sure
I'm no geography buff, but I do
I'm not
think.
either.
Oh my goodness. I'm curious. What's one thing you know now that you wished you knew when you were starting out in the world of short-term rentals?
Oh, that's a tough one. That it's okay to allow other people to come in and help.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Just earlier this week, I was with a coach. I was on a coaching call with a student, and she was saying that one of her resolutions for this year is that she wants to be okay with asking for help. I think a lot of people struggle with asking for help. They feel like I'm being a burden or I don't want to bother anyone else. And, I'm always of the mindset that if we are struggling with something, the best gift you can give to yourself is to ask questions and get feedback from people who have been there, done that.
Mhm.
So that's great advice. Great
Yeah.
advice. Speaking of advice, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Short-term rental wise,
Nope. Just in general.
listen to your gut.
Listen
So-
to your gut. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Last question. What's one thing and or a person that you're grateful for today?
Oh, my husband, 100%.
I knew you were going to say that, girl.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so wonderful. And it's great to, be in a position where you're working with your spouse and enjoying, having that collaboration and partnership together. I think all too often, you hear stories where spouses aren't getting along, just not necessarily in the short-term rental space, but
Mhm.
marriages these days aren't forever, unfortunately. And so I love hearing that, you're not only so proud of your husband and admire and respect him, but, that you've got a great support and partner in this business. So that's wonderful.
It's not always pretty when we're building.
I can imagine. My husband and I vowed years and years ago never to hang wallpaper together. We did it one time.
We did it one time too. That was it.
Yeah. Mm-mm. There are certain things we do not do, right?
That is best left to the experts, right?
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness. Trudy, I'm curious if someone wants to learn more about you, where is the best place for them to find you online?
ArlingtonVacationRentals.com.
Easy enough. Easy
Yeah.
enough. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.